And where's the woke crowd on this? Isn't it racist for the police to allow the white Antifa to take over the streets, but they don't allow the Crips or the Bloods, who are predominantly black, to do the same? Excuse me, that's racist. First, we had Chaz, the Seattle Autonomous Zone. Then, we had the one in Portland, and then a short-lived one in New York. Now, courtesy of the wonderful mythical group of Antifa, we have GFAZ, the George Floyd Autonomous Zone. Nice. The Minnesota Supreme Court has denied Derek Chauvin's appeal, and now it opens the door for the prosecution to be able to add a third-degree murder charge. Now, the prosecution is desperate to add this third-degree murder charge because they should know that their second-degree murder charge will most likely not stick if Derek Chauvin gets a fair trial. Now, will Derek Chauvin get a fair trial? Jury selection has begun, and we're seeing some disturbing things. For example, a potential juror who was later disqualified said that he was scared that if he went for not guilty, he was going to have riots in his business or in his home. I guarantee you, many, if not all the jurors, are thinking that. Will Derek Chauvin receive a fair trial? I don't know. What do you guys think? Comment down below. Now, can you blame these people, the citizens of Minnesota, who are potential jurors, of being scared of having their businesses and their homes savaged and ravaged by Antifa? No, you can't. And maybe you're thinking, hey, that's back in the summer, there's no more riots, Trump's gone, there's no more Antifa. My friend, you're wrong. They just set up a new autonomous zone in Minnesota, the George Floyd Autonomous Zone. We've already got one murder there. Crime is going up. Police are not allowed in. Antifa operates like a gang. Excuse me, Antifa is a gang. Now, CNN, MSNBC, they're not going to cover this, but a Fox News affiliate in Minnesota went to the George Floyd Autonomous Zone to check it out, and he was met by Antifa security and threatened. Check it out.
This is where George Floyd was killed back in May. Take a look. These barricades have been set up by protesters and supporters of the movement. They don't allow anyone in, not even the police. It's called an autonomous zone. And
you're going to be in a bad situation here in a second.
oh, I thought if we were on this side of the barricade.
No, you're going to be in a bad situation in a second.
What do you mean by
because
bad
you've been called out
situation?
for what you are and you need to get out of here.
Please go.
Even on
We
this side of the
know
barricade.
what you are. You need to get in your car and go.
We're just media.
I don't give a who you are.
Go ahead
You've been
and go.
called out for who you are. You need to get in your car and go.
How disgusting is that guy threatening the reporter? We know who you are. You need to get in your car and go. Acting all tough. A little simp boy. Are you kidding me? What is it with the police are not allowed in? Tear down the fucking barricades. Tear down Antifa limb by limb. I don't give a shit. I'm tired of this. It's crazy. And they say, oh, the 75 million Trump supporters are domestic terrorists. Excuse me, sir. I think the people taking over American streets by force are the domestic terrorists. Would you not agree? And when you approach their border, they threaten you. Huh. Put them down. Put them down. Our law enforcement has to start considering Antifa as organized crime so we can RICO them and finally take them and the leaders off the streets. This is getting ridiculous. We can't keep having parts of cities being taken over by thugs. And where's the woke crowd on this? Isn't it racist for the police to allow the white Antifa to take over the streets, but they don't allow the Crips or the Bloods, who are predominantly black, to do the same? Excuse me, that's racist. Now, not everyone who's protesting the death of George Floyd, and even not everyone who supports BLM, thinks Antifa and their autonomous zones are a good idea. Because people die. And for some reason, most of the time, the people that die are black people. Like what happened in Chaz in Seattle, and like what happened in GFAZ in Minnesota this weekend. Here's a clip of the aunt of a person who was shot and killed in GFAZ this weekend.
What's the situation at the memorial?
The situation at the memorial is, from what I understand, is kind of volatile. People that want to go and support doesn't feel a sense of inclusion. There is more of a militant type atmosphere over there and a sense of fear.
Kim Griffin supports police reform and was outside the courthouse protesting Floyd's death, but she does not agree with what's happening at the memorial. Her nephew, 28-year-old Emez Wright, was shot and killed there over the weekend. Were police able to get in and help him? Or
police were not allowed to get into that area. He was carried outside the zone of George Floyd Square.
But not allowed by who? I mean, they're the police.
The law enforcement, it was made clear law enforcement was not welcome to penetrate that zone, which is an atrocity because his life was taken. And I mean, who knows whether or not he would have survived had things been different.
It's sickening and it must be stopped now. I don't know if there's any other way than violently bringing Antifa members into court. I don't know, but it must be stopped. Now, if we don't get a conviction in the George Floyd case, the riots we're going to see, unprecedented. And let's be real here, the prosecution does not have a good case. At least it doesn't seem like they do. Now let's take a look real quick at the Minnesota second degree and third degree murder statute so I can explain to you why I think that the prosecution's case is not good. And if you have any doubts, let me remind you again. I passed my crim law class, okay? So I sort of know what I'm talking about. I don't know, but I sort of know. Now let's take a look at these statutes. So let's start with murder in the second degree. It's divided into two, intentional and unintentional murders. There's no reason for us to look at the intentional, but whatever, we're here, why not? Whoever causes the death of a human being with intent to affect the death of that person or another, but without premeditation, that's not good enough because Derek Chauvin did not have the intent to affect the death of that person. Whoever causes the death of a human being while committing or attempting to commit a drive-by shooting, okay, no. So intentional is out. Let's take a look at unintentional. Whoever causes the death of a human being, okay, without intent to affect the death of any person, sounds good, while committing or attempting to commit a felony offense, that's going to be ambiguous, but murder in the second degree is not abide well for the prosecution, and the defense has a lot of defenses. So naturally, they want to include murder in the third degree because it's an easier standard. Whoever, without intent to affect the death of any person, causes the death of another by perpetrating an act eminently dangerous to others and evidencing a depraved mind, which is recklessness, without regard for human life, is guilty of murder in the third degree. I think it can be argued that this fits. Derek Chauvin did not have the intent to affect the death of any person, but he caused the death of another person by perpetrating the act that was eminently dangerous, which is reckless. Which act is this? It's having your knee over George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes. Maybe having your knee over George Floyd's head, over George Floyd's neck when he stopped breathing, when he stopped being conscious. You could argue that that was a depraved mind and without regard for human life. So murder in the third degree would most likely stick if and only if the judge allows it in. So you could see now why they're so desperate to put this one in. And let me get out of this small screen. So now you can tell why third degree murder is way more likely to stick than second degree murder. Now also keep in mind that Derek Chauvin still has some other defenses. For example, George Floyd had unusually high amounts of fentanyl in his system that could kill any normal human being. Also, George Floyd had COVID-19. Also, George Floyd was experiencing excited delirium. What is excited delirium? Excited delirium is characterized by agitation, aggression, acute distress, and sudden death. Sound familiar? Often in the pre-hospital care setting, it is typically associated with the use of drugs that alter the dopamine process, hypothermia, and most notably sometimes with death of the affected person in the custody of law enforcement. Sound familiar? Should I keep going? Fine, I'll keep going. Subjects typically die from cardiopulmonary arrest. Sound familiar? Although the cause is debated, unfortunately, an adequate treatment plan has yet to be established, in part due to the fact that most patients die before hospital arrival. Sound familiar? While there is still much to be discovered about the pathopsychology and treatment, it is hoped that extensive review will provide both police and medical personnel with the information necessary to recognize and respond appropriately to excited delirium. So George Floyd was exhibiting most, if not all, of the symptoms of excited delirium, with, more often than not, ends in death. Cardiac arrest. To conclude, I think it's going to be very difficult for the prosecution to get second degree murder to stick, but if the judge allows a third degree charge in, they might be able to get that one. Now, if the prosecution is unsuccessful and Derek Chauvin is not guilty, the riots are going to be bad, and you people need to brace yourselves. Now, of course, I'm not happy about what happened to George Floyd. I don't like when anyone dies. I think it was not necessary for the knee to be over the neck for 8 minutes, and I think it may have been reckless and a depraved mind to keep your knee over his neck when he was unconscious. Derek Chauvin should definitely have consequences. But looking at the facts, I doubt he's going to be guilty. But we'll see what happens. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Do you guys agree with my analysis? Do you guys think Antifa is a bunch of thugs who need to be jailed, or do you think they're just a myth? Comment down below. And if you made it this far, hit the like button, subscribe, comment. Helps with the algorithm. Follow me on BitChute. Follow me on Twitter. See you next time.